February 2009. A short month and a short list. The first book I read in February of 2009 was Soul Taker by Brian Smith. This is a leisure book, and this is the back cover copy. Beautiful, sexy, inhuman. Jake McAllister knows that his brother Trey's new girlfriend is a bad influence, but he doesn't know what Myra's really after. Trey's soul. Trey is just one of her new playthings, a pawn in her centuries-long game. One by one, Myra has seduced and enslaved the young men of the town. Excuse me. The women have joined her cult as eager priestesses, lured by promises of sex and power. But Myra's unholy plan is almost complete. Can one man hope to battle such seductive evil? Will he be able to resist the Soul Taker? Excuse me. I'm a huge fan of Brian Smith, but I seem to recall at the time that I read this, I think my expectations were a little too high, having read House of Blood and Queen of Blood and Freak Show and everything, and this didn't. It's a perfectly fine book, but I seem to recall that it didn't quite meet my expectations. It wasn't what I was expecting from Brian Smith, and I think that's on me. This is a book that I would like to read again and see what I think of it on its own, without comparing it to any of his previous works. I just think it was, again, this is just how I remember it from 2009, just different from previous stuff, and so that threw me for a loop. But well worth the read, and at some point, hopefully I'll reread it. Soul Taker by Brian Smith. I left my little notebook over there. I need it over here. Next up, the penultimate book that I read in February of 2009, Monstrous, edited by Ryan C. Thomas. This is an anthology of 20 giant creature stories. I believe they're all giant creatures, thus monstrous. So you've got authors in here like Guy N. Smith, of course his story is about crabs, Steve Alton, Nate Kenyon, James A. Moore, Jeff Strand, and you've got, I think, Jeff Strand's? Somebody's is about a giant vampire, but then you also have, again, Guy N. Smith has crabs, one has like ants and bees and stuff. I don't know what, I was going to say I don't know why I don't have this book anymore, but I know exactly why I don't have this book anymore, because sometimes I had bills to pay and didn't have the money to pay them, had to get rid of books. I would love to find a copy of this again, because, as everybody knows at this point, killer animals, my favorite subgenre, and even though these aren't all animals, vampire story, it is mostly killer animals of one size or another, and I love that stuff. Monstrous, edited by Ryan C. Thomas. And the final book that I read in February of 2009 is I'll Be Damned by Shane Ryan Staley. This is a short story collection, introduction by Brian Keene, and I really remember nothing about this. This is the third or fourth Shane Ryan Staley book that I've gone over in these Reading Remembrances videos. So obviously, I thought his stuff was good enough to keep reading. So I'm sure these were good short stories. I just remember nothing about them, and really couldn't find much detail on what the stories were in my relatively quick search throughout the internet. But I'll Be Damned by Shane Ryan Staley. This is quick. So, question for the video: is there a book that you've read that you feel didn't live up to your expectations? And, you know, in a purely subjective manner, I think is what we're going for here, where you've you know, you've read an author, everything you've read by that person you love, and then you've read something that's a little different, and you're like, wait, what the hell is going on? This isn't what I necessarily what I signed up for. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Um, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that book. It just threw you for a loop. Um, Obviously, Soul Taker is my example here. And if I had actually thought ahead, instead of coming up with this question on the fly, I could probably think of others. I think maybe, relatively off the top of my head, Clickers versus Zombies. I love the first Clickers novel, and I enjoyed Clickers 2 and Clickers 3. And then I think maybe I just had certain expectations because I wasn't a huge fan of Clickers versus Zombies. It was fun, it was fine, but I didn't think it was as good as the previous Clickers stuff. And that's another book I would like to go back and read and see if my opinion of that has changed. Um, and I'm sure there are others. If I took the time to think about it, I could come up with other examples. But what about you? Is this something that has ever happened? Let me know in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. All the usual YouTube stuff. If you'd care to follow me on other social media, I'll have links for my Instagram and Blue Sky in the description below. And that's all I have for you this week. So until next week, read more books.